Welcome back, brave souls, to another tale from the mists of Norse legend. Before we journey together into this ancient story of love and loyalty, please hit that like button if you're ready for an epic adventure, subscribe to our channel for more Viking mythology, and let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Your support means everything to our storytelling community. Now, let us begin. The autumn winds carried whispers of ancient prophecies across the fjords of Nordland, where the sea met the sky in an endless dance of grey and silver. Tormund the Bold stood at the prow of his longship, his weathered hands gripping the carved dragon's head that adorned the vessel's front. Beside him, wrapped in a cloak of deep blue wool, stood Ingrid, whose golden hair caught the last rays of sunlight like spun wheat in a summer field. They had sailed for 7 days and 7 nights, following the ancient maps passed down through generations of seafaring folk. The destination was legendary, the gateway to Valhalla, hidden somewhere beyond the mortal realm, where it was said the bravest warriors could glimpse the halls of the gods themselves. But this journey was not born of conquest or glory-seeking. It was born of love and desperate hope. Ingrid had fallen ill with a mysterious ailment that no healer could cure. Her skin had grown pale as winter snow, and strange dreams haunted her sleep, visions of golden halls and thunderous voices calling her name. The village wise woman old Helga had spoken in riddles about curses and divine tests, suggesting that only by reaching the sacred gateway could Ingrid's fate be understood and perhaps changed. "The mist grows thicker," Ingrid observed, her voice soft but steady, despite the weakness that had settled in her bones. Her breath formed small clouds in the cooling air as she watched the world around them transform into something otherworldly. Tormund turned to face her, his deep brown eyes filled with determination that had carried him through countless adventures across the northern seas. "Then we must be close, my beloved. The ancient texts speak of mists that guard the entrance to the realm between worlds." The crew of 12 hardy sailors worked in practiced silence, their movements synchronized by years of sailing together through storms and calm seas alike. Eric the navigator studied the stars through breaks in the clouds, while Olaf the Strong adjusted the great sail to catch every breath of wind. These men had followed Tormund to the edges of the known world before, but never had they ventured quite so far into the realm of legend and myth. As the longship cut through waters that seemed to glow with an inner light, strange sounds began to echo across the waves. Not the familiar cries of seabirds or the crash of distant waves against rocky shores, but something deeper, a low, resonant humming that seemed to come from the very depths of the ocean itself. "Listen," whispered Sven, the storyteller, the oldest member of their crew, whose grey beard was braided with silver rings. "The sea itself sings to us now. We have entered waters where the boundaries between our world and the next grow thin." Ingrid's hand found Tormund's, and he squeezed it gently, feeling the coolness of her skin even through their thick gloves. Her condition had worsened during the voyage, but her spirit remained unbroken. She had insisted on making this journey, refusing to waste away in her sickbed while there remained even the smallest hope of understanding her mysterious affliction. The mist continued to thicken around them, until their world shrank to just the deck of their ship and a few arms' lengths of dark water in every direction. The usual sounds of wind and wave became muffled, replaced by that strange, otherworldly humming that seemed to resonate in their very bones. "There!" Eric called out suddenly, pointing into the swirling grey ahead. "I see something." Through the mist, a shape began to emerge. Not land as they had expected, but something far stranger. Rising from the water like the spine of some impossibly large creature, a bridge of dark stone stretched across the waves, disappearing into the mist on both sides. Ancient runes were carved into its surface, glowing with a faint blue light that pulsed like a slow heartbeat. "The Bridge of Echoes," Sven breathed, his voice filled with awe. "I thought it was only legend." The ancient songs speak of this crossing, built by the first gods, to span the gap between the mortal realm and their eternal halls. As their longship approached the bridge, they could see that it was not merely carved stone, but something living, or at least something that had once lived. The surface was smooth as polished bone, and strange patterns flowed across it like veins carrying luminescent blood. At regular intervals, great pillars rose from the structure, each one carved with the likeness of different animals: wolves, ravens, bears, and eagles, all creatures sacred to the northern gods. "We must leave the ship here," Tormund announced, studying the bridge's edge, where ancient iron rings had been set into the stone for mooring vessels. This crossing was meant to be made on foot, as a test of courage and commitment. The crew worked quickly to secure their longship to the bridge's mooring rings, checking and double-checking the knots that would keep their vessel safe while they ventured into the unknown. Each man understood the gravity of their situation. They were entering a realm where the normal rules of the world might not apply, where courage and loyalty would be tested in ways they had never imagined. Ingrid stood slowly, accepting Tormund's steadying hand as she found her balance on legs weakened by her mysterious illness. Despite her condition, her eyes burned with the same fierce determination that had made her legendary among the women of their village. She was not just a warrior's beloved, but a shield maiden in her own right, trained in the arts of both healing and protection. "Whatever lies ahead," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the water despite its softness, "we face it together. The gods may test us, but they will find us worthy." One by one, the crew gathered their essential supplies: weapons for protection, food for sustenance, and small tokens of their faith to carry them through whatever trials awaited. Each man carried a piece of carved amber or polished stone, blessed by the priests of their homeland, and meant to provide guidance in dark times. As they stepped onto the bridge, the stone beneath their feet seemed to pulse with warmth, as if recognizing their presence and purpose. The runes carved into the surface glowed brighter as they passed, creating a path of light that led them forward into the swirling mist. The bridge stretched on, much farther than it had appeared from the water. Time seemed to flow differently here. Sometimes their steps echoed with the sound of 100 marching feet, while at other moments complete silence enveloped them like a blanket. The mist swirled around them in patterns that almost seemed intentional, forming shapes that looked like faces or reaching hands before dissolving back into grey nothingness. "Stay close," Tormund called to his men, though his words seemed to come from very far away, despite his position just ahead of them. "This place plays tricks with sight and sound. Trust in your companions and keep moving forward." Ingrid walked beside him, her hand never leaving his, drawing strength from his presence while offering her own quiet courage in return. She had always possessed an unusual sensitivity to the supernatural forces that flowed through their world, and here, surrounded by the raw power of the bridge between realms, she could feel energies that made her skin tingle and her heart race. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes or days, as they continued their crossing. The bridge began to curve upward, rising towards something that remained hidden in the mist above. Strange sounds echoed around them now, the distant clash of weapons, the roar of great fires, and voices singing in harmony that spoke of glory and honor beyond mortal understanding. "We climbed toward Asgard itself," Eric whispered, his navigator's instincts telling him they were ascending despite the lack of visible landmarks. "The home of the gods lies somewhere beyond this mist." As if responding to his words, the fog began to thin slightly, revealing glimpses of what lay ahead. The bridge continued its upward curve, leading to a massive gateway carved from black stone, shot through with veins of silver. The gateway stood open, but it was not unguarded. Coiled around the massive stone pillars that supported the gate was a creature of legend, a dragon whose scales shimmered with all the colors of the northern lights. Its eyes, each as large as a warrior's shield, glowed with ancient wisdom and terrible power. The dragon's breath created clouds of warm mist that mingled with the cooler fog surrounding the bridge, and when it moved, the very stone beneath their feet trembled. The crew of the longship stopped as one, their hands instinctively moving to their weapons before they remembered where they were and what they faced. This was no mere beast to be fought and conquered, but a guardian of the sacred threshold, a creature older than their oldest stories. Mortals who would pass into the realm eternal, the dragon spoke, its voice like distant thunder rolling across mountain peaks. Know that this crossing demands more than courage alone. Here, at the gateway between worlds, truth is revealed and hearts are tested. Are you prepared to face what you truly are? Tormund stepped forward, his hand still firmly clasped with Ingrid's, his voice steady despite the awe that filled his heart. We are prepared, Guardian. We seek understanding of the affliction that plagues my beloved, and we are willing to face whatever trials the gods set before us. The dragon's great head tilted, studying them with eyes that seemed to see not just their physical forms, but the very essence of their souls. Then let the testing begin, warriors of Midgard. But know this, not all truths bring comfort, and not all love survives the revealing of what lies hidden beneath the surface of mortal understanding. The dragon's words hung in the air like a challenge, written in smoke and starlight. Tormund felt Ingrid's hand tighten in his, and he squeezed back reassuringly, though his own heart hammered against his ribs like a bird desperate to escape its cage. Behind them his loyal crew stood in respectful silence, understanding that this moment belonged to their leader and the woman he had crossed the boundaries of the world to save. "What must we do?" Ingrid asked, stepping forward beside Tormund to face the ancient guardian directly. Her voice carried no fear, only the quiet strength that had first drawn Tormund to her during the long winter festivals in their homeland. "We have traveled far and faced many dangers to reach this place. We are ready for whatever test awaits us." The dragon's massive form shifted, scales catching and reflecting light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. When it moved, the air itself seemed to shimmer with power, and the crew could smell something like burning copper and winter pine, the scent of magic itself. "The test has already begun," the dragon replied, its voice now softer, but no less commanding. "From the moment you set foot upon the Bridge of Echoes, you have been walking through the chambers of your own hearts. Every step has revealed more of your true nature, every breath has drawn you deeper into the realm, where masks fall away and souls stand revealed." As the dragon spoke, the mist around them began to swirl in new patterns, forming shapes and images that flickered like memories come to life. Tormund saw himself as a young warrior, fierce and proud, sailing forth from his village to seek his fortune in distant lands. He saw the battles he had fought, not for conquest or gold, but to protect those who could not protect themselves. Ingrid's image appeared in the swirling mist as well, but not as she was now, pale and weakening from her mysterious illness. Instead, the mist showed her as she had been in the prime of her strength, a shield maiden whose skill with sword and strategy was matched only by her compassion for those in need. The crew watched in wonder as scene after scene played out before them, showing the deep bond that had grown between their leader and his beloved over years of shared adventures and quiet moments of peace. "You love truly," the dragon acknowledged, its great eyes studying the couple with something that might have been approval. "But love alone is not enough to pass this gateway. You must be willing to sacrifice everything you think you know about yourselves and each other. Are you prepared for such a revelation?" "We are," Tormund declared without hesitation, though he could not shake the feeling that they stood on the edge of a precipice far deeper and more dangerous than any physical chasm. "Whatever the truth may be, we will face it together." The dragon's response was not words, but action. With a movement that was surprisingly gentle for such a massive creature, it extended one great claw toward Ingrid. The talon, sharp enough to cleave stone, touched her forehead with the delicacy of a feather, and immediately her entire form began to glow with the same ethereal light that had illuminated their path across the bridge. What happened next would be burned into the memory of every witness for the rest of their days. Ingrid's human form began to shimmer and change, like sunlight on water or heat rising from summer stones. Her golden hair flowed and moved as if stirred by invisible winds, and her eyes began to shine with a light that was not quite mortal. "Behold," the dragon said, its voice now filled with something that sounded like both sorrow and pride, "the truth that has been hidden from you all. This woman you love, this shield maiden you would die to protect, is not what she appears to be." The transformation continued, and Tormund watched in amazement as wings of pure light began to unfold from Ingrid's shoulders. Not physical wings, but something far more ethereal and beautiful. Her skin took on a luminescent quality, and when she moved, the air around her seemed to sing with harmonious notes that spoke of distant halls and eternal glory. "I am Valkyrie," Ingrid said, her voice now carrying harmonics that resonated in the very bones of those who heard it. "A chooser of the slain, a daughter of Odin, sent to walk among mortals and guide worthy souls to their eternal reward. But I was not prepared for what I would find in the world of men." Tormund stared at the transformed figure of his beloved, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. The woman he had loved, the companion who had shared his adventures and his dreams, was one of the legendary warrior maidens who served the All-Father himself. Everything he thought he knew about their relationship, about their life together, suddenly seemed as insubstantial as morning mist. You're not dying," he said slowly, the pieces of the puzzle beginning to fall into place in his mind. "The weakness, the pale skin, the strange dreams, you were being called home." "Yes," she replied, and now there were tears in her luminous eyes, tears that caught the light like liquid starfire. "My time in Midgard was meant to be temporary. I was to observe, to learn about mortal courage and loyalty, and then return to report my findings to the court of the gods. But I did not expect to fall in love." The dragon watched this exchange with ancient eyes, its massive form coiled around the gateway pillars like a living mountain. "Herein lies the test," it rumbled. "A Valkyrie who loves a mortal faces a choice that has no easy answer. She can return to her divine duties and eternal glory, or she can surrender her immortality to remain with the one who has claimed her heart. But such a choice, once made, cannot be undone." Behind them, the crew stood in stunned silence, their minds reeling from the revelation. Eric the navigator found himself remembering all the times Ingrid had seemed to know things she should not know, the approach of storms, the location of safe harbors, the outcomes of battles before they were fought. Sven the storyteller recalled the strange way birds had always gathered around her, as if recognizing something divine in her presence. "There is more," the dragon continued, its voice growing heavier with each word. "The gods have grown concerned about their missing Valkyrie. They have sent me not just to guard this gateway, but to retrieve her and bring her home. If she chooses to remain mortal for love, she will be stripped of her divine nature entirely, no longer Valkyrie, no longer immortal, but truly human in every sense of the word." Tormund felt as if the bridge beneath his feet was crumbling away, leaving him suspended over an abyss of uncertainty. The woman he loved was not who he had thought she was, and now she faced a choice that would determine not just her fate, but the very nature of their relationship. How could he ask her to give up immortality and divine purpose for his sake? How could he let her go when she meant everything to him? "And if I return with you?" Ingrid asked, though her hand remained firmly clasped in Tormund's. "What becomes of the love I have found? What becomes of the life I have built in the mortal realm?" "Love between mortal and divine is not forbidden," the dragon replied, "but it is complicated. You could visit Midgard from time to time, but your duties would keep you in Asgard for most of eternity. Your beloved would live his mortal span and eventually join the honored dead in Valhalla, where you could meet again, but as warrior and Valkyrie rather than as husband and wife." The weight of the choice settled over them like a heavy cloak. Around them, the mist continued to swirl, now showing images of possible futures. Ingrid in her full divine glory, leading fallen warriors to the golden halls, while Tormund grew old and grey in the world below. Another vision showed them together, fully mortal, sharing a simple but happy life until time claimed them both. "I need to know," Tormund said finally, his voice rough with emotion. "Before you choose, I need to know. Was any of it real? Our love, our adventures together, the moments of joy and sorrow we shared?" Ingrid turned to face him fully, her transformed features radiant with love and pain intermingled. "Every moment was real," she said firmly. "My divine nature may have brought me to your world, but my heart chose to stay there. The mission I was given became secondary to the life I built with you. That is why the gods grew concerned. I was forgetting my duty in favor of mortal love." "Then I know what I must ask of you," Tormund said, though the words felt like they were being torn from his soul. "I cannot ask you to give up eternity for me. You are magnificent, divine, meant for greater things than the simple life I could offer. You must return to your duties, and I will treasure the time we had together." "No," Ingrid said sharply, surprising everyone present, including the dragon. "You do not get to make that choice for me. I am Valkyrie, daughter of gods, and I decide my own fate. And I choose." She paused, looking back at the gateway to the divine realm, then at Tormund and his loyal crew. "I choose love. I choose mortality. I choose the life we can build together, however brief it may be." The dragon's great head tilted in what might have been approval or sorrow. It was impossible to tell which. "Are you certain? Once this choice is made, there is no going back. You will age and die as mortals do. You will face all the uncertainties and pains of human existence." "I am certain," Ingrid replied without hesitation. "I have walked among mortals and learned that their brief, fragile lives burn brighter than all the cold immortality of the gods. I choose warmth over eternity, love over duty." The transformation that followed was even more dramatic than the first. The divine light that surrounded Ingrid began to fade, drawn away like smoke in a strong wind. Her luminous wings dissolved into motes of light that drifted away on the ethereal breeze, and her otherworldly beauty settled into something more human, but no less magnificent. When the change was complete, she stood before them as simply Ingrid once more, but now Tormund could see the truth behind her mortal appearance. She was still extraordinary, still the brave and compassionate woman he had fallen in love with, but now she was fully and completely human. "It is done," the dragon announced, its voice filled with a complex mixture of sadness and respect. "The Valkyrie Ingrid is no more. In her place stands a mortal woman who has chosen love over immortality. The gods will not be pleased, but they will honor the choice. It is the right of all beings to determine their own destiny." Years later, in a small coastal village where the northern sea meets rocky shores, an old storyteller sits by the fire in the great hall, entertaining children with tales of ancient heroes and distant adventures. His hair is silver now, and his weathered hands move expressively as he speaks, but his eyes still hold the spark of someone who has seen wonders beyond imagination. Beside him sits his beloved wife, her own hair touched with grey, but her spirit as bright as ever. She listens to his stories with a smile, occasionally adding details or correcting his more dramatic embellishments. The children love her tales of distant lands and brave deeds, never suspecting that she speaks from personal experience of realms beyond the mortal world. Sometimes, on clear nights, when the aurora dances across the sky, the couple stands together on their threshold, hands clasped as they have been for so many years. They watch the lights and remember a bridge of stone and starlight, a guardian dragon, and the moment when love proved stronger than duty to the gods themselves. Their mortal lives may be brief compared to the eternal spans of divine beings, but they burn bright with purpose, compassion, and the unshakable bond between two souls who chose each other above all else. And in the great halls of Asgard, the story of the Valkyrie who chose love over immortality is still told, a reminder that even gods can learn something about courage from the hearts of mortals. In the end, they discovered that true immortality lies not in endless existence, but in the love that echoes through generations, inspiring others to choose compassion over convenience, loyalty over safety, and hope over fear. Their tale becomes legend, their love becomes myth, and their choice becomes a beacon for all who face the difficult decision between duty and desire. The dragon still guards the gateway between worlds, and sometimes it smiles, if dragons can smile, remembering the mortal woman who taught the gods themselves about the transformative power of love, freely given and fearlessly chosen.